Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. My name's Dave Savage. It's always an honor to do this Tuesday call. I have actually 4 amazing guests today to help me with this interview because it's focused on millennials. I have Kristin Messerli, who I've interviewed a number of times and has been on the show a lot. Kristin, welcome to the call.
Thanks for having me. Excited to interview everyone.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. So we have a branch manager who is Fairway's #1 branch. Laz, welcome to the call, my friend.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, well, this all started when I was at the sales rally several months ago, and you were on stage. You had some of your loan officers with you, and it sounded like a story that the mortgage coach community needed to hear. I know we need to bring in new loan officers, next generation, and it sounds like you're doing something pretty special there. Would you mind telling just a little bit about your branch so folks have a kind of a feel for what it's like to be in your world?
Sure, thanks. We're coming off a decent year. 2016 for our group was pretty good. We closed $675 million in volume in 1,937 units. And I think we're on our way. Certainly the team has some pretty lofty goals, but what's exciting about our group is really kind of the age. I mean, we have made a real commitment to try and bring in the next generation of loan officer and get them trained in the very best possible way that we know how to. And when you think about our industry and the average age of a loan officer right now being 54, our group is 22 years younger than the average loan officer that's out there today. So that's pretty exciting.
That is pretty exciting and extremely unique. So learning how you do that, I think, is part of what today's call is all about. So, we have 2 of your top producer. We have Craig and Jared. Craig, if you wouldn't mind just giving folks a feel for your mortgage practice, how long you've been in the business. I know you're kind of the elderly millennial. You could put a little color around your practice, and that would be great.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, I'm no longer the young punk in the office anymore, I guess. I've been in the business since 2003, so right after college, didn't know anything about the business, and I've been originating on my own since the end of 2007. So while I think I'm the older one of our team, one of the older ones in our office, this is the only thing I've ever done. Right from school, got right into the business.
And just give us a feel for the types of number of units you're closing on a monthly basis and the number of referral partnerships that you manage.
Yeah, so last year, 2016, I closed $63 million, and it was 175 units. So about, just about 15 a month is what I'm closing. From a referral, my business is 100% referral. So all my business comes from either past clients, realtors, financial planners, or my networking groups. So we don't do any advertising or marketing. It's strictly word-of-mouth marketing.
Love it. And then Jared, how long, you're the up and coming, millennial. You are at top producer status, but give us a feel for how long you've been in the business and what your production level is.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I've been doing this about 4.5 years, so still relatively new, but that does seem like a long time now that I say it. I have been originating on my own for the past 2 years. So in 2015, I did $32 million. And 2016, about $42 million. Just grateful to be a part of this unique program that we do have with Laz. I worked under Laz, believe it or not, to learn the mortgage industry. And so a lot of my success goes towards that experience of working with someone who was very successful and really learning the business from him. So I just want to do $50 million this year and $60 million. So we'll keep going.
I love it. Well, by all standards, you're doing great production. You've been in the business for 4 years. I know a lot of people have been in the business for a lot of years and would just love to have that production. Well, before I get into the first questions, I do want to remind folks about a few things from last week. One, I want to make sure everybody is at least aware of the top interviews from last year. You know, I did 52 interviews last year, 52 weeks in a year, and I shined a light on 15 of them. And then I think I had, you know, 5 that are just absolute must-watch videos that I posted on my Instagram page. But if you're not aware of that, make sure you check those out. There's some just extraordinary conversations that could drive a lot of success for anybody that listens. Also, I think it's just super important everybody realizes that we did upgrade the Mortgage Coach app. So everything that you want to do in Mortgage Coach, you can now create a total cost analysis. You can edit a total cost analysis. And obviously, it's a great experience. So make sure you check that out. Also, I will be leaving a little early, but Kristin will keep it going. I'm going to be interviewing Darren Hardy at 10 o'clock Pacific. So somewhere, you know, in the last third of today's interview, I'm going to jump out, let Kristin close it strong. Check out this call. It will also be recorded just like the one we're doing right now. I'm always recording these, but don't miss that interview. So I think it's going to be a great conversation, guys. You know, I am looking forward to Laz hearing, you know, what are you doing to bring in millennials? What are you doing differently to make them successful? And then obviously I'll bring Kristin in, I'll bring Craig in, and I'll bring Jared in throughout the call. But Laz, let's just start with you. I think we'll close out where Kristin can kind of ask a lot of questions around the, you know, exactly how did you get a millennial to come on board? Why are they coming? But, you know, what I really took from listening to you is you had a great process to develop a loan officer, regardless of age. You know, the obstacles and the hurdles that they have to go through in the first year, I thought made a lot of sense. So would you mind just kind of sharing your philosophy as a leader and as a manager? You know, what does the first year look like under your leadership?
Yeah, you know, this has to do with wanting to grow, right? So if you're of the mindset that you want to grow, and I think when you look at the changes that have taken place in actually doing a transaction with compliance, with what is our real job, it's kind of starting at saying, okay, we have to wear all these different hats as loan officers. We're expected to be amazing prospectors. We're expected to be very good at process, extremely detailed, understand guidelines, understand compliance and what's happening. And it's very rare that you find someone that can do both. That's an amazing networker, that's an amazing prospector, and really good on all the details. So what we kind of did was look at it and try to chunk out the job and said, okay, what's most important in bringing in the next generation and helping our existing loan officers grow? So we currently have 11 teams that want to grow, that want to do anywhere from 100 to 200 million as a team. So we need to help them get there. And to get there, it is all about team and breaking out the specific jobs and getting help in each of those areas. So the idea of bringing in the next generation in the formal training program we established about 5 years ago wasn't to teach people sales. It was to teach people operations. And I think that's what's a little bit different in our program. We start with operations. So they'll go through a first year where it's understanding, number one, the software, getting licensed as quickly as possible, learning what the disclosure process is so they can understand fees and have command of fees and be confident when they're back out on the street originating themselves. Then once they're licensed, they get into understanding guidelines, how to pre-approve people. And these are processes that they go through. And we were very fortunate because as we started growing our branch, our head of operations, a woman named May Genosa, really loved teaching. So we made a shift and we made our head of operations run our training program. So the training that these guys go through, what makes Jared so good and so special is they didn't get taught sales, they got taught operations. And we figured the sales comes, you know, this is my background was heavy into sales, not so much into ops, but having the ops as your backbone gives you that confidence at any age to go out and cultivate and develop business. So when I think about the first year, Dave, it's 3 months of learning how to disclose, learning the actual software, getting licensed, and then getting reps, seeing loans. So everyone that goes through our program has seen a minimum of 250 files before they're released to be able to go out and actually originate a loan. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's certainly around making sure they know what they're doing, because we don't have a lot of opportunity to make a first impression. So we want them to be confident and represent us well on the street, because beyond their reputational risk, we have to be concerned with Fairway's reputational risk on the street. So I think that's what makes it a little bit different. The sales are intertwined, but as they learn, they join some of our growing seasoned teams, and those teams are responsible for teaching them sales as well as going through scenarios with them.
Got it. So you said it does, and you said some things that I think are unique. It's not the norm that, you know, before a loan officer is even able to talk to a realtor, start soliciting referrals, having a borrower conversation, you know, where they're setting up a file, they've got 250 reps under their belt where they've seen the loans, they understand the loan in every operational detail. Is that right?
That's correct. That's a non-negotiable in our world, because I've had loan officers join us that have been in the business for 15, 20 years that don't have the experience that these guys have after a year and a half.
Yeah. So I would love to get some feedback from the street. So everybody who's on this call, there's a little section here where you can post a question. And I would like you to go back to when you started in the business, and I want you to think before you met with a borrower for the first time and, you know, took a loan app, you know, won a business, got an app, started building relationships with referrals. How many reps did you do? How many files had you touched before you went out and asked for an app? If whoever's on this call, I would love, you know, just share your story. How many reps before you did it? But I remember when you said that from stage, I'm like, that is so smart. And especially if you're bringing in the next generation of loan officers. You know, I remember when I started the business, I did not have a lot of reps. And fortunately, I was one of those guys that, you know, I was really comfortable faking it before I made it. And obviously, I did that for a long time. But, I mean, that's not something that everybody can do. So I just thought, like, if I would have had 250, you know, file reps under my belt before I hit the streets, man, that would have been a gift to me in my career.
Yeah.
So I think that's powerful.
The confidence goes through the roof, and I, like you, was probably more of the fake it till you make it and didn't have that benefit. But I will tell you, when you talk to these guys and how well versed they are and their confidence level, meeting a realtor, meeting a financial planner, they just have complete confidence from day one, and that's very cool to see.
Yeah, so I mean, I just throw that out right now as an industry, and again, my role is you know, obviously create an awesome piece of software and platform that gives the mortgage coach loan officer competitive advantage first and foremost. That is my job. But second, and it's not a very close second, it's do calls like this. It's bring leadership into the industry, and I just throw it out there that that's just a requirement. We want to bring millennials in. Let's get them reps. And is 250 too many? I don't know. Maybe 100's enough, or maybe 250 is too little. You know, but I can tell you right now, I'm seeing all the questions come in, and it's zeros. You know, I mean, it's like the old school way of bringing in loan officers and throwing them out there. Let's just kill it.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
Hey,
go ahead,
Dave. There's a second level to the reason to bring in the next generation, and that's to have a succession plan for our existing loan officers. So if you've been doing this for 10, 20, 15 years, whatever your number is or longer, you need help at this point. You need to be able to grow and chunk out your job if you want to maintain lifestyle and grow your business at the same time. So there's a second reason for doing this. Besides bringing in that next generation, it's supporting our existing loan officers and chunking out their job and giving them the help they need. So it kind of serves as a farm team for our existing teams that are trying to grow and exist. It's pretty cool because they're getting the experience they need in the training program, but then they have the option to either join a team that wants to grow or go off on their own. And we have something called the LO Challenge, which is our loan officer challenge. About a year and a half into it, they still maintain their salary. And by the way, we present this as getting your master's in the mortgage business. So these guys come out of school, and the reason they'll join us, maybe it's their first or second job, is they're getting paid to learn this business. So they have a salary. After a year and a half, we keep the salary, and then they go out and do what we call their loan officer challenge. And that's a period of time where we shrink their pipeline down. So instead of having 30 or 40 loans they're overseeing, they might only have 5 or 10, because we want to simulate what it's like to be a loan officer on the street. You're always going to have something in your pipeline. And then they're out prospecting with the tools that we have given them during the program, Mortgage Coach being certainly one of those best practices. So everyone that comes through our program, Mortgage Coach is part of the best practice. But they'll go and put that stuff to work, and then they decide if they want to go on their own or if they want to stay on a team. And there's no right or wrong. We've had people come through our program that have fell in love with operations through this and decided to stay on the operational side. And that's awesome too, because we need both. In generationally speaking, it's not just the loan officers, we need young operations people too. So it kind of serves a couple of purposes. 2 is serving as a farm team to help our major leaguers as they continue to grow. And I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, no, it's great to get out there. And I want to put this in context before I kind of transition to the sales side. And Craig, I'm going to bring you up next. But I want to, most loan officers aren't closing 60 loans a year. So to even get to the point where they're touching 250 files, we're talking about years. So, I mean, I throw it out there to everybody on this call that if you are not consistently closing over 60 loans a year, sometimes you just got to go backwards before you go forwards and get great at files so you can become great at sales. So Craig, let's talk about you real quick. I'm showing on my screen Mortgage Coach, and you've got over 700 reps of Mortgage Coach under your belt. And I don't know how many files you have under your belt, but you got a lot of files under your belt. You got a lot of Mortgage Coach under your belt. If you could share a little bit about, from a sales perspective, it's like, okay, I've got this operational knowledge. I know loans. What's your take on the system that you guys have, and what were some of the reasons you became so successful in this business?
Yeah, so I've been in the business, like I mentioned, right out of school, so that's in 2003. I did not necessarily go to a formal training program, but my background was I feel like I learned the business from the ground up. I was a loan officer assistant, or really an admin, for the first year or so, and then I started learning the business, became what we called an analyst at the time, and then had 3 years of working on reps, similar to the formal training program we have here at Fairway. And then really got cut on my own in 2007, and I probably touched that 200, 250 files over that 3-4 year period. So when I joined Fairway, I was most likely presenting financing options or loan scenarios like everyone else. It was through email or phone call. And when I joined Fairway, I was given this tool in Mortgage Coach that really I felt at the time and still feel today differentiated the way I communicate to my borrowers. It allows me to show them financing strategies or plans outside of just that email, right? So, I mean, I look at what we do every single day, and I'm very familiar with, mortgage insurance, LPMI, no PMI. But when you try to explain that to the consumer in an email, I think it gets lost. I think the presentation gets lost. So I made it a commitment when I joined Fairway to really dive into Coach, because I really did feel it put me on a different level than my competition. So it's been a non-negotiable for my borrowers from day one, and I still use it to this day with all consumers.
Right on. And then I know your primary source of referrals is Realtors. Is that right?
It is Realtors and past clients. So I feel very fortunate in the way I feel I run my business, where I'm getting past client referrals almost as much as I'm getting Realtor referrals. And part of that is the communication.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've never interviewed a top producer and asked them why are you so successful, and always, there's processes that they do consistently, which includes tools like Mortgage Coach, and there's communication that's awesome. And most of the time it's Mortgage Coach. So how does Mortgage Coach touch a partner? In this part, how is that part of your you get a referral from a realtor? just so at least folks know how you're using Mortgage Coach to communicate and add value to agents.
Yeah, so again, I'm really using it or trying to position in a way where I'm differentiating myself from everyone else. So whenever I get a referral from an agent, I know they're going out on Saturday, Sundays to look at open houses. So we're proactively, myself and my team are proactively reaching out Wednesday, Thursday, asking for the homes they're going to go look at. We're getting a list, typically 3 or 4 homes, and we're providing them payment options based on their scenario prior to those open houses. I'm always CCing that agent. So that agent knows right away that, what our communication style is, but the consumer, most importantly, is able to either disqualify or get excited about a home based on their payment, based on their ideal payment, before they even see the open house. So I'm trying to get them as much information on Thursday, Friday. That way, personally for me, I'm not running around Saturday, Sunday trying to update pre-approvals, trying to update payment scenarios. They know exactly what's going to cost them before they walk in that door.
All right, cool on that. And Kristin, I'm going to have you ask a question in a minute. And then Jared, I'm going to bring you up. But, Craig, I do want to at least get a feel for the types of total cost analysis scenarios you do most often. You forwarded me a couple. One of them is the one I have on the screen right now with different purchase options. If you could just really quick, what are the most common scenarios that you're doing? And then also I know FHA guidelines just changed. Would love to know, how you're going to do that from a Mortgage Coach perspective.
Yeah, so this particular one I think we're looking at here, this was a consumer that was trying to decide whether to put 25% down or 20% down. And he ultimately ended up putting 20% down because the cost savings to him didn't make sense. He'd rather have the 5% in his bank. This particular consumer is an investor, one of those guys that felt like he had to put 25% down in order to get a great payment or a great return on his investment. And by using Coach, I was able to show him, listen, you're able to save or keep 5% in the bank, and the payment difference is only $129 a month. Made it very quick and fast. This was a very quick example, so at the time we didn't populate all the information. He was just wanting to concentrate on the cash flow of the property. And
got it. And what about this one?
This one, this is a consumer who, in our area, lack of inventory, like I think a lot of the rest of the country, but the list price was $699, and this particular consumer was in a bidding war and wanted to see what his payments looked like by going up $25,000 or $50,000. Whenever I communicate to a borrower, to me it's always about monthly payment or cash flow. It's never about the purchase price, rate, loan amount. It's always about what do they want to spend and what's their ideal payment. So I was able to show this particular consumer, listen, if you go up $50,000 a month on your offer, your payment difference is $192 a month. Does that make sense for you? Because again, this was a competitive bid situation. It was final and best offers due in a few hours, so I was able to quickly update him on different payment purchase prices just to make sure he was comfortable before he submitted a higher offer.
Love it, love it. Hey, Kristin, I know you're going to get to ask a lot of questions in kind of the last third of the call, but along the lines that we're going right now, any questions for Craig?
Not for Craig yet. I have tons of questions for all of you, but I did want to just bring up that someone mentioned in the question box that that millennials often struggle with 100% commission. So I was wondering if Laz could speak to, or any of you could speak to how you guys structure the program so that for millennials, a lot of times they're coming into the program or into the industry really struggling to make it in that first kind of time period. And so, do you guys have a structure set in place so that you kind of ease them into the commission, or how are you kind of structuring that to make the transition a little bit easier?
Yeah, it's a great point, because I think that's something we're very sensitive to as we thought about this program. So first off, they do come in with a salary, and it's nothing amazing, but again, you're being paid to learn a craft that will carry you, and if you're career-minded, it's pretty amazing. But that salary does not go away until you make that decision yourself that it should go away. So it might be $36,000 to start. You're licensed, you go to $41,000. But in that last 6 months when you do the LO challenge, I'm laughing to myself because I'm thinking of Jared, who's so amazing at what he's doing. When he went on his LO challenge, the break even is about $1 million. If you can close $1 million, you're better off being on commission. And Jared was closing over $1 million, I think, in his second month. But it took him a few months to do the math and kind of get comfortable with a peak and a valley that you might experience. So we try and have a soft kind of takeoff, and that's something that we invest in, and we believe that's how I would want it if I was starting. So we try to pass that on, and that's how we deal with, you know, being comfortable and having a little bit of a safety net.
That's awesome. That's such a great template for, I think, everyone to follow. I do want to mention that, at least in my research, millennials are very interested in the commission-oriented kind of structure. It's just the fact that at the beginning, you know, having that kind of soft launch, as you said, is very helpful to make that just a possibility. But the industry, I think, really does appeal to millennial values for flexibility and that kind of entrepreneurial attitude. So that's great to hear that.
Great. All right. Yeah, good point. So Jared, let's jump in and kind of where I started with Craig there. When you think of the sales side of things, you know, obviously you started with Mortgage Coach at some point. Talk a little bit about that, but, you know, talk about going from, hey, I know how to do a transaction, I've got 250 reps, to where you're at today, and try to integrate Mortgage Coach and how you're using it within that.
Absolutely. I was lucky that I was introduced to Mortgage Coach from pretty much day one of being in the mortgage industry. So I never really knew any other way. So I was very fortunate working on those 250, 300 files with Laz's clients that I grew up with Mortgage Coach, and I've used it pretty much, I would say, 99% of clients every day since. And the way that my business is set up, coming into this business, I did have realtor relationships from a past business that I was involved in, and so I was able to generate a decent amount of activity very quickly, which contributes to what may seem like big numbers for a first year or two, but I did come in with a realtor relationship. So I didn't come in with any knowledge of how to do a mortgage or what an interest rate really was, or how to convince somebody to use me for their mortgage over another company. And I am also very lucky that I have got to work very closely with Craig. So Craig is young, but he's not as young as me. So I have gotten to really learn from him, see how he approaches the business. And very similarly, Mortgage Coach is a way for me to close a very, very high percentage of the deals that I pre-approve or get an accepted offer. My pull-through rate is somewhere 95% plus, and I do think that Mortgage Coach is a big piece of that, because one of the key points that working with millennial buyers is there's a lot of anxiety surrounding the process, especially around the numbers. Especially my demographic is almost exclusively first-time buyers that are well-educated, that come with parents that may be giving a gift. So there's parents involved, there's friends involved, there's people that are talking about this home buying process, and of course, once the numbers come up, there's anxiety around that. Mortgage Coach is like literally the perfect solution to take that anxiety off the table for these type of buyers, because they're seeing very black and white what the numbers are, what their options are, adding the video to explain the numbers. And you know, this is something I do all day, every day now, so it's very secondhand to me, but it is something that allows me to keep borrowers from shopping, to take the focus sometimes off of rate. Most of my clients, 90%, are not putting 20% down. So we're doing comparisons of 80-10-10s and PMI and no PMI. So there's a lot involved in teaching them about the options. And I honestly don't know how I would do it without Mortgage Coach, but the way that I look at it is helping me convert a very, very, very high percentage of people that I come in contact with.
Well, there's not a lot of loan officers that have a 90% conversion, and I can assure you there's certainly not a lot of millennials that do. So, I mean, the combination of Laz, your operational workflow, you guys, you know the business well, you're using, a best practice way to communicate it to clients. If you could just, I know you sent me a couple scenarios. I've showed one while you were talking. Give us a feel for what we're looking at here when we look at this particular strategy. What are you communicating, and what are the scenarios that you do most often with clients?
Absolutely. I mean, all day, every day, I'm thinking about PMI versus no PMI, and that's probably 90% of the mortgage coaches that I do, because my buyers are first-time buyers with less than 20% down. In fact, and we are lucky to be a high-cost area, so we do have a high conforming loan limit now, which throws a lot of scenarios in there. But there are also times where I'm doing an 80-10-10 comparison to those as well. But the reality is 90% of the time I'm showing somebody PMI versus no PMI. What I like at some point as my business grows with Laz, I used to do a lot of 30-year fixed jumbo versus 5-1 ARM jumbo. 5-1 ARM, take those savings, reinvest them at this rate. That's a different client type than I have currently. So I have dealt with that and done edge for that too. For a sophisticated investor, similar to Craig was referencing, but almost always it's showing a first-time home buyer the low down payment options. And to your point about FHA announcement, that is, I don't do a lot of FHA, but now it does become an enticing option to show and really lay out there all the options.
Got it. So have you done a mortgage coach total cost analysis with an FHA? Oh, you know what? I think you forwarded me one. I mean, it just hit. So I know yesterday in my inbox, I think this is it right here, by the way, everybody. And I'll put a link to this, but Josh Metal did a really nice job, another awesome fairway loan officer, did a great job of, showcasing how he's, spreading the news with his realtors. Have you done one yet?
I have not. All I've been doing this morning is talking to new pre-approvals, Dave, and this call. So, but it's something definitely on my to-do list.
Right on. Well, hey, everybody, I am going to put Josh's link in chat. This is, his FHA versus MI, and I think the vision he had on this was to get use Mortgage Coach as a way to get the word out to agents. The two strategies I'm hearing the most in Mortgage Coach land are, this one now. Prior to that, it was the cost of waiting analysis. Being able to show a family the cost of waiting. I also am hearing more and more loan officers call it the move-up analysis. If you can meet with your realtor and you can say, hey, let me provide a move-up analysis. Agents love that. They have an opportunity to list a house and represent a buyer on a house. So when you're able to, represent that with a move-up analysis, it's incredibly powerful. So, Kristin, I'm going to hand off the screen to you. I'm going to ask one more question that let you really drive the screen from here on out. Remember, folks, I'm going to be doing a call with Darren Hardy immediately following this call. Would love to have you on it. So Laz, back to you. Kind of hearing your team talk through some of the concepts that they did. Any other advice that you have for other branch managers that want to, and from my standpoint, it's not only bring new talent into the business, but it's almost like take people that are not doing so well and saying, you know what, you need to restart the business. I don't care if you've been in the business for 15 years. If if you're only doing 30 transactions a year, it's going to take you 10 years to get to 250 reps. So where would you like to take it?
Well, it serves so many purposes. First of all, I'm just so proud of these guys. What Craig and Jared have done is they're just great role models. Josh is a great loan officer at Fairway as well. But their focus this year is certainly on speed. And with our new Fairway Now app that we just came out with this week, coupled with the Mortgage Coach, I think these guys will be able to continue to deliver the speed that's being required by the consumer. So we're very focused on technology, very focused on speed. But to your point of what this does for the existing loan officers that have been doing it a while, the energy from these guys is absolutely amazing. So just by being present and seeing what they're doing, it is giving kind of a second wind, if you will, to the people that have been in the business a while that we have. And it's showing them a path. It's showing them a way that they can reinvent themselves if they need to, or get that extra boost that they really need to continue to exist and be relevant in this business. And I think that's one of the byproducts of this program, is just having that energy around. These guys are smart. and they're just so advanced technologically that it's just a great thing to be around. So I'm just real proud of what these guys are doing and really where they're going. We are just getting started with it. But as far as being a branch manager, you need to be thinking this way if you want to remain relevant in what's becoming more and more an environment based on speed and education.
So this is Kristin. You keep mentioning speed as coming from demand from the consumer, and we know that particularly with millennials, but all consumers are looking for more transparency, more information, and they're obviously getting that from the mortgage coach experience and your expertise. But can you talk a little bit, anyone on the team, about the way that you are implementing speed in terms of reaction time or lead pull through, how that is being structured as a competitive advantage?
Yeah, I'll let Craig and Jared speak after, but I can tell you from our value proposition internally at Fairway, we're moving to turn times for underwriting being at 2 to 3 hours. So when you can rely on turn times being 2 to 3 hours, not 2 to 3 days, I'm talking about same day approvals, being able to regularly close loans in 10 or 12 days, that's a competitive advantage that I think we're all going to need. So, you've heard these advertisements of Rocket Mortgage, so that's coming, right? You need to be able to be quick. We just released this week something called Fairway Now. It's our Fairway Now app that will allow the consumer to fill something out in 5 to 10 minutes, issue pre-approvals mobily on the device. They can scan in documents, and I think that Craig and Jared are probably going to use that in their sales process to elicit more and more speed. But I'll let them comment on that.
That's great to hear about the, in terms of closing times, that is incredibly fast. What about in terms of, and maybe Craig or Jared could speak to this, the way that you, how often are you available to customers? How quickly do you get back to people when they send you a question? Do they, are you texting your customers answers to questions, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about speed, right? I mean, I think from the consumer standpoint, they do expect us to be available 24/7, right, with the text message, email, smartphones. Very rarely do I meet my consumer face-to-face. It's always an option, but most consumers don't take advantage of it. Most are very comfortable with the uploads or downloads of the documentation. We are pretty much paperless here, so we are able to review and collect documentation extremely fast. For me, again, going back to Coach and the Edge presentations, having a family, I'm not available 24/7. So I use Coach as a way to provide as much information to my consumer when I'm available during the week. That way I'm hoping to answer any questions they may have, because we all know Saturdays and Sundays when these offers go out. So I want to make sure they're properly prepared and educated so they're not dragging their feet. They can make an offer with their agent, that they're 100% comfortable. They know what their payment's going to be. They know how much they could afford on Saturday or Sunday. I think it just creates peace of mind for everyone, and an agent's not waiting for a pre-approval, or the agent's not waiting for their LO to get back to them on the payment scenario if they go up 25 grand. Everyone is prepared, and if they want to make an offer, they could jump on it right then and there. So that's really how I use our technology.
That's great, and that's really the key to being able to, if customers have peace of mind, then they're not going to be as anxious about getting a response from you, really quickly. If they have a question on the Saturday night, they're not freaking out about it as much because they have a lot of information and feel confident in their process with you. So
Exactly.
that's a really great point. So I'd like to ask Jared, you had talked about being younger in the industry and kind of your process, but how does using the total cost analysis or mortgage coach help you increase credibility as a young person in the industry?
Well, that's a great question. I think that it helps in a couple ways. First of all, you mentioned the word anxiety. I mentioned the word anxiety earlier too. I think millennials in general, we just have more anxiety for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So it is important, very important for me from a credibility standpoint to be very transparent upfront about the costs and the fees involved and what it means over time. I don't want the borrower necessarily focused on, well, is Jared young, is Jared old, is he green, yellow, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is, here are the numbers. I've explained them in a way that makes sense for you to be able to make the best decision on how to move forward. So it definitely helps build my credibility because I can show very black and white, sort of what they're dealing with. And the second piece is, in many cases, I am doing a mortgage coach video, and so they do see me, and I just think in our world, when someone sees you, like Craig said, we do, in our marketplace, we are meeting borrowers face-to-face relatively to very infrequently. So to be able to have them see your face and hear your voice in what is almost moved towards a phone and internet process, that also helps for them to be able to just visualize who you are and that you're a real person on the other end that's working on this for them.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people get caught up with thinking we're all moving towards only convenience and speed, and while that is very important, as we talked about, it's still relationship, and we still are going to trust someone that we're able to connect with. And so having that kind of face-to-face interaction, even through video, really helps build that trust. So if anyone is not using the video function, I highly, highly recommend it. I mean, it's just psychologically, like, you look someone in the eyes, that it just helps you connect and build trust. I always tell people, as basic and kind of ridiculous as it sounds, even when I'm helping people with their social media accounts, like having a profile picture where you can clearly see your eyes, it makes a difference. We see the results. And so the video function, I think, is really helpful. Moving into talking more about how you've built your team and how like my interest is, how do we get more young people in the industry and increase just kind of general confidence with millennial buyers. So I talked to Laz a little bit before the call about how you guys were doing recruitment, and we talked about the program you guys have in place, but what happens before that? So Laz, could you speak to that a little bit about how you are curating or bringing in younger people that maybe don't have the experience and kind of getting general awareness out there?
Yeah, so we have a very inclusive process of going about and interviewing and finding people. Some of the things that we've done is we've gone to college campuses, we've set up at job fairs. We'll bring people that are in the training program to be at the job fair. We'll bring graduates from the program to be at the job fair and just connect and talk with people. And it's kind of neat what's happened. We've created over the last few years a little bit of buzz in our market, so we are getting more people interviewing than we can actually handle in the program. So we've currently capped our program and our branch out to about 12 people, but we have 2 classes a year starting. So we almost have semesters where people will be rolling out of the program and we'll bring new people into the program. So we'll have a February class and then a class towards the fall. And it's just amazing, between word of mouth, what we've done on college campuses, having success stories like Jared has created its own little situation where, and when we interview these people, it's not just done by 1 or 2 people. A normal interview, they will meet anywhere from 6 to 10 people during the interview, and we all have input into whether we think they're going to be successful in the program. So it's being inclusive. I think one thing millennials like is being part of what's going on a larger scale, and this group certainly is.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. So how do you manage the time to do that? I mean, if you're going into college campuses, this is the kind of thing I recommend oftentimes, but people say, I don't have the time to deal with that. But if you're bringing in people and like you said, they're able to see your team and really see that this is an inclusive environment, it's amazing you guys are capped at this point, but there's a lot of people that would be interested. But from a management standpoint, how do you structure the time to do this kind of recruitment as well as manage people and develop that talent?
It's about commitment. I mean, it's really important to us. So 40% of my time is probably spent recruiting and being, telling our story. And when we do bring people in, we're not taking them out of their flow. It's very free-flowing, and we do something called a fairway day, where we'll bring people in not for a half an hour, but they'll spend 3, 4, 5 hours with us, whether it's a loan officer or someone that's looking to come into the program to meet with operations, to meet with production partners, loan partners, or what we call people in the training program, to meet loan officers that are there, people that have been there for 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years. It's a big deal, right, to make a move anywhere. So we want people to talk to as many people and get as comfortable as they can. So it's just about priority. I mean, you have to make a decision as a branch manager, and I'm a producing branch manager as well. So you have to make a conscious decision, I think, as a branch manager that, hey, I'm not going to do $100 million in production anymore, and I'm going to tone that back. So my production since 2010 has steadily come down in making room for the time to develop these guys in this program.
Cool. That's so important for everyone to hear, that were able to make that kind of sacrifice for the long-term rewards. So I do want to hear from Craig specifically. We were talking a little before the call about what brought you into the industry. I always think it's interesting to hear, not many people have the opportunity to run into an awesome lender at a college campus. So how is it that you got interested in mortgage, or how did you join the industry?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about the business, right? I guess you sit in business school and they teach you about, your first few jobs. You sit in a cubicle 9 to 5, maybe you go back at your MBA and you get a little bigger cubicle and you kind of ride that corporate ladder. When I was out interviewing, I guess my last semester at school, and that was pretty much the same story I was hearing. And then I was fortunate enough, I fell into a smaller mom and pop shop, I guess, a local lender here in the Boston area, and I was able to talk to someone who was only a few years older than me, and then the president of the company, and they kept, using the word career, but more than anything, they promised me I wouldn't sit in the cubicle 9 to 5, and that more than anything really kind of hit home to me, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I joke, say I didn't know how to spell mortgage. I just knew my parents had one. And they really promised me that I wouldn't be just sitting there and just kind of doing data entry or anything else that I was out interviewing or listening to. And but the word career and the fact that they gave me that promise, looking back on it, it wasn't a 9 to 5 job. It was more like a 7 to 7 type of job, as I learned. But it did, lay the groundwork, lay the foundation that allowed me to learn this business the right way. So when I did go on my own, I was able to succeed because I felt like I had that background, that experience moving forward.
Yeah, that's so great, and that is something that I wanted to bring up. Actually, I pulled together some of the slides that I use in talking about recruiting for millennial talent, and I mean, you brought up every theme that I talk about, and I think you guys do such a great job of just really building that kind of reputation. But upward mobility and career development is such a big deal and I've interviewed so many millennial loan officers. This is across the board what people say. They want mentorship and coaching. Yeah. They want people to be able to say, this is what I feel like I'm part of something bigger, the inclusivity that you guys, that Laz was mentioning. And then the not having the 9 to 5, even if it is 7 to 7, and that's absolutely my life. I'm an entrepreneur and love the flexibility, but I'm sure I work so many more hours than most people. And but you have that kind of flexibility and ability to develop your career as far as you want to take it. So.
Yeah,
and
Kristin, I think you said something.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I got to chime in because I listened to what you're putting up on the screen and what you're preaching about no limits. And one of our core values in our group, in our office, is there's no ceilings. So no one wants to feel like they're going to be capped out or they can't continue to grow. And we continually have these discussions and talking with Jared even now about, okay, how does it work to get your own branch and to grow and to continue to make this happen. So these are all great discussions, and we don't want anyone to ever feel like they have any limits. And Craig's point on career, that's what when we interview for, we want to make sure people don't want a job, they want a career. So I think you're spot on in all these things you're mentioning.
Yeah, that's so good. That's great. Craig or Jared, did you have something you were saying at the same time?
Yeah, I was going to add to that the career piece, right? I mean, when I first got into business, my boss, my mentor, they did such a great job of laying out the foundation or painting the picture of, yes, you're paying your dues now. Yes, you're putting the time in to work on, my files or, the LOs at times files. But they were setting me up for my future, right? It was all for me to be better as I moved through it. So I didn't necessarily mind the extra hours because I always knew what the bigger picture was. And I think our training program here, like I mentioned, I didn't necessarily go through the Fairway training program, but listening to Laz and our team and May and how they communicate the bigger picture, these guys have an understanding, or the group has an understanding that, yeah, you're maybe working on someone's loans now, but there's not, you're not working for them, right? You really are working for yourself to better yourself for the future.
Yeah, and if we understand that we have that in the future and we have that possibility, we're happy to invest. And that's one thing that you see across this generation in particular, because many people are postponing having families a little bit later in life, and they're really wanting to invest in now to at a younger age to set themselves up for something better in the future. And so, that is a huge opportunity, I think, for lenders to be able to develop a young team who's willing to invest that time and train before kind of being thrown out into the 100% commission world. So, Jared, is there anything that you, what would you say is most attractive to you about working in the mortgage industry, or what is it that kind of got you interested?
Well, a lot of the stuff that you guys just touched upon. I mean, for me, when I was fortunate enough to meet Laz, and he kind of told me about this program of coming in and really getting your master's in the mortgage industry and having that base salary as a way to get in and learn the business. I mean, for me, it was like, well, why wouldn't I do this? And Laz and Craig really, with some others, but really the whole office was focused around painting that picture of the career that you can develop. And I just always remember my first time walking into Laz's branch, seeing Craig and a lot of the other guys and girls in the office who had started in this training program, and how successful they were, and looking around and thinking like, oh my God, like there's something going on here that's different, and wanting to be a part of that, especially as you know, I'm sure you've said many times, the average age of a loan officer. So for me, it's really my career path had taken me to an opportunity where all of a sudden I could get in on the ground floor of something that was going to grow really big, and over time, hopefully that it only multiplies and snowballs because of the age equation involved. So they did a great job painting that picture for me. At the same time, this was a career choice that I made at the same time I chose to get married. And to your point about the lifestyle is, now I have an 11-month-old baby. But the lifestyle has matched up perfectly for me with being able to. The reality is I probably worked 70-hour weeks, for the first 2 years, but it got me to a point now where I still want to grow, and I still want to build my business and grow this as much as I can, but I don't have to feel the pressure of working 70 hours a week necessarily.
Hey Jared, could you talk about your building your own team now too? So you were in a training program, had some great success, and now you're able to maybe control your hours more because you're also helping to bring in the next generation, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. I mean, Laz's point about Fairway having no limits and wanting to support growth has allowed me to actually bring in some, my stepbrother works at Fairway. I've had friends that have come into the program. I feel very strongly about the program, so it's allowed me to bring new people into the business that I know that have now become members of my team, trained under me, learned how I do things, learned a lot of what I learned from Laz, but from a more millennial perspective, and it's only worked to support me to focus more on origination activities, realtor meetings, family time, whatever it is. I know that for me, I'm very on top of responding to any client email or text or anything, within minutes at the most. But if I'm on the road 9 to 5 meeting with realtors or meeting with clients or doing broker open houses, I know I have that backup at the office to help with a lot of the questions that come up.
Right.
And Laz has always said, in the mortgage world now, it takes a team. You can't. I think it'd be extremely difficult to grow and be a top producer without a team. I mean, I don't even know if that's possible. So
Yeah,
it has been a nice layer for me to be able to grow my business and have those guys come in after me and work under me.
that's great, and that is the top producer mentality, I think. And for any business owner or someone who's trying to grow their business, it's very hard to go away from just focusing on the origination, or for me in doing the small business activities, and you have to build a team to take care of that so that you can do the higher level stuff that grows your business. And it sounds like you guys have really done a great job of putting that kind of structure in place so that you understand this is the what we have to do in order to be able to see the long-term growth. And a lot of people are very focused on short-term. Another thing that you guys have brought up that I thought was just really great in terms of your sales is you are not focused so much on marketing as you are on building your reputation. And the 3 key areas that I always say you have to build in order to increase business with millennials today is showing that you are trustworthy, that you can be convenient or speedy, and ensure that you have the expertise. You guys do an incredible job using Mortgage Coach and other tools in place and your processes in place to build that kind of reputation. So before we close out, I just wanted to mention a couple things we have in place. So we have available, if you guys didn't see my call a couple weeks ago, there is a free app or report on the top apps for home buyers of 2017. You can download that at homebuyingapps.com, and Mortgage Coach is of course featured in that, so we've been kind of talking through promoting that, and it's something you guys can share with realtors and referral partners and clients. And then we also have I have a discount code I wanted to share with you guys for online courses. Right now we just released a very comprehensive social media course that is found at culturemaptraining.com, and we'll be releasing a millennial focused training course coming up as well. So you can use the discount code Mortgage Coach to get 10% off of that. But that is all that we have time for today, but I wanted to allow a little bit of time in closing. Laz, do you have any last words that you want to share in kind of summarizing what has made you guys successful as a team?
Yeah, well, I think it's never thinking you have it all figured out. A lot of how this has grown and become is because of input from people in the program, trial and error. So we've learned a lot over the last 4.5, 5 years of doing this. We continue to learn, and we never think we have it all figured out. So we're always trying to get better. Nothing's a 10, right? So we keep that mindset and that humility about us, and I think that keeps us in the right place.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the call. I think you had incredible insights, and I know a lot of people will be able to benefit from that. So you guys, if you're able to jump on the next call with Dave and Darren Hardy talking about insane productivity, you can do that. And I look forward to connecting with you guys again soon.